Hello, I am Caleb Schilling, and this is my build for Brickworld 2017 called Tunnels. Tunnels is based off a book series called Tunnels. It's a 6-book series which follows the adventures of Will and Chester as they go underground and discover a hidden civilization. Little do they realize at the time that this civilization does not really have good things in mind for the topsoilers up above. And the deeper they go, the deadlier it gets. So on the top layer right there is Highfield, where Will and Chester grow up. You'll also see the Weasley mobile from Harry Potter, because it can't not have that little bit of a touch in there. So on the second layer down is where they have dug from the basement of their house and have discovered a little bit of an elevator shaft in this very mysterious room. And of course, Will and Chester, being the curious individuals that they are, they take this elevator shaft downward, and what they see at the bottom does surprise them. They're greeted by the Skull Gate over at the far end of the town, and on the other side is a thriving city built and hidden away underground. But this city is ruled by the Styx, and the Styx are not the friendliest of people. They look a little creepy. You can see the three of them standing right there. They rule very harshly, and no one is allowed to leave this city. However, Will's mom, and he doesn't even know this, was one of the individuals who did manage to escape from this city and left him up for adoption, where his adoptive parents had taken him in up in Highfield. So it was almost like he was destined to come back down here. As they go further down, they're kicked out of the town and they're thrust deeper into the earth, into this area called the Deeps. They're sent there aboard the miners' train, which is the train I've built part of right down there, and dropped off at the miners' station with a bit of food, a bit of water, and good luck. Down here it's very hot. As you can see on the next level, there's a bit of lava, and there's some even weirder people and adventurers down here who have gotten lost or banished. Will's father also joins this chase, and he ends up down there hoping that he's going to make some discoveries and become very famous when he returns to the top, not even realizing the danger he's putting himself and his family in. And so with the base of the MOC is basically has the two front covers of the first two books, and then of course the Tunnels logo from the books. This is quite a fun MOC to create. It's one of my favorite series, second only to Harry Potter, of course, by Roger Gordon and Brian Williams. Roger Gordon was actually very supportive of this project as I went along. He gave me lots of feedback and was just very happy to see someone take his world and put it into a physical form. And I, of course, was happy to make that form Lego, my favorite art medium there is. And yeah, that's the story of Tunnels. Fantastic read, and it was fantastic MOC to create. Had a blast doing this.
Yeah, this is such an awesome build. How tall is this exactly, do you know?
It's about 5 feet, maybe a little bit taller, maybe 5.5. It's just slightly taller than me. It's about 45,000 bricks and weighs 80 pounds. So it's a little bit of a pain to carry around, but it does divide nicely into 4 sections.
Okay. So yeah, I imagine that was something you kept in mind, is having the different sections and you didn't have to haul one giant piece around.
Definitely. This whole purpose of this MOC was to make it here to Brickworld in one piece, which it did a pretty good job. It only took about an hour to set up and repair, so I was pretty pleased with that. So, learned a lot from making a MOC this tall. It is pure Lego. There's no wooden supports, steel beams in the back. It's basically large rock pieces, some castle pieces, big bulky but lightweight pieces.
Yeah, very neat. And so I'm seeing, some walls of bricks here, obviously. You got a lot of brick in this. What's kind of like the internal structure in these different sections that keeps this together?
The internal structure, I've gotten a lot of questions about, is it solid? And like I said earlier, it just become way too heavy to carry around. So towards the bottom, it's really, really thick. There's a lot of basic brick holding it up and attached with beams across. I think there's 3 beams going across both ways, just to make sure that it doesn't collapse in on itself. And so I can have these caves sticking out too, and without it falling forward. lots of just strong poles all connected together. It was a learning process because I started from the top and I wasn't really sure about structural stability, as most of my builds are very horizontal. Did a lot of small things. Last year I had just some small Harry Potter buildings. So it was learning process. Had some city windows in there, but as it goes down, it does get quite a bit stronger. So it was interesting in that way too. Just trial and error was a lot of this build, doing something this tall and this big.
Definitely. And one of my favorite parts is how you incorporated the houses into the rock work there. Talk about kind of how you achieved that and what it took to do that.
So that really began, that's one of the only sections I actually had to plan out very carefully. A lot of it was freelancing. But I started with the base, which is the equivalent of two 48 by 48 base plates, and I mapped out the bottoms of the houses. But instead of just building all the houses at once, I actually had to build the rock up along with them. So the rock is very much a part of the buildings. I was happy with the final outcome, especially making the rock almost grow out of the roofs, so you can't really see back in and see like cracks and stuff. A very hard effect to achieve. That was probably the most time-consuming part of the build, but I got some creative part usage out of the whole thing, so it was very fun. Posed a unique challenge.
Yeah, and I think it turned out great. Another thing you mentioned earlier is this train down here, so if you can talk about some of the design parts on that, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there.
I was very fortunate in the book, in the second book, Deeper. There was a very nice description of the train. It was much described as a steampunk-ish train. So I wanted to get that very, very almost futuristic look. It was something very different from the colony, the city above it. But also it wasn't... I just wanted to make it look like it actually could function. It wasn't like something streamlined like you'll see in New York City, too. It was something that had to endure the harsh environment that it was in down in the deeps here. So it was something I made independent of the actual mock. I made it before I started this layer and wasn't sure how much room I would have to work with. One of the cars actually does not fit on the track. Unfortunately, it was the supply car that had some food and stuff aboard it, which is where Will and Chester in the book had climbed aboard. So, but it was a fun build to do. It actually holds up pretty good, but also can stand alone as an individual model.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed from pretty much the top all the way to the bottom is really nice use of lighting. So how did you incorporate that throughout the build?
Lighting is something I've just started dabbling in. I don't have a whole lot on me, but it was something I definitely wanted to be a part of Brickworld, where we have, of course, the World of Lights every year. So I wanted to make something that was a little more spectacular. The first thing I built on this was the Tunnels logo, and I knew that had to be something that would stand out because it'd be hard because it's going to be on the bottom by everyone's feet, but still I wanted people to see it. So I scraped up all my transparent light green and made the background there and had some really bright LEDs from Brick Stuffs that I had got last year. The rest are actually just Christmas lights, just made to hit a good chunk of all the windows. And also under the lava, as you just saw there. My biggest regret is that I couldn't get lights up into the lampposts. Just with the resources that I have, it did prove too difficult. But I'm happy how most of the lights turned out, and they're very bright and vibrant, and it looks pretty great on World of Lights, and I was happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that turned out really nice. So what sort of advice would you have to someone maybe who's looking to do a really big project like this that's tall with a lot of brick, maybe a few things that you learned as you went along here? Definitely.
First thing, just make sure you have a lot of strong bricks on you, and don't be afraid to overdo it. So like I said, since I started from the top and kind of worked my way down, the top section is kind of flimsy. It's a little scary to carry around. That's just because the supports in the back are not that good. So I'd encourage, if you are planning on doing something really tall, don't be afraid to pile it with a lot of brick. Yes, it might be a little bit heavier, but you're going to save yourself a lot of pain and time by making sure that part is very sturdy. And of course, no one's going to see the back. The back is all covered. The front's all covered. So don't be afraid to use like some Duplo, something that you aren't maybe proud of owning. There's a lot of city windows, like I said back there, from collecting when I was younger. A lot of big, ugly rock pieces from the castle sets from Knight's Kingdom. Just a bunch of weird things. I'm trying to think what else is back there. Probably some from ships. You got the masts back there. Just anything that's going to be strong, light, and supportive. But just don't be afraid to put as much back there as you can. Just make sure it's not bending on you or collapsing.
Sounds good. Well, I think that's some good advice, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about the build, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for stopping by.